Welcome back. This is hashtag Bread Making October. This is a collaboration we're doing with Judy from A Girl in the Garden. Please go check her out. I'll have her YouTube channel linked below. Please go check her out. Give her some support. Let her know in the comments that you came from my channel. And if you're here from Judy's channel, hello everybody. Welcome. I am Vicki and you're with Grammy in the kitchen. So today it's going to be a really good bread making recipe. We're going to make homemade English muffins. And from those English muffins, we're going to make homemade, ready to heat and eat breakfast sandwiches. We're going to make our own turkey sausage with all the goodness that's in sausage, plus some eggs, and we're going to be making some homemade mozzarella because I have extra milk in the refrigerator I need to use. So we're going to make homemade mozzarella to put on our sandwiches. If that's something you're interested in, please stick around. It's going to be a great day. So let's get started on hashtag Bread Making October on this beautiful Friday morning. Now this is just a very, very simple English muffin recipe. It takes just a handful of ingredients, and if you're like me and you have a pantry with all the things, it's going to be really simple to put together. We do need to let them rise, so we're getting started very early in the morning so we can make our dough so it can rise, and then we got to cook them. But if you've never had homemade English muffins, you're missing out because it's delicious. It's better than anything you can buy at the store. It does take time. It's so much easier just to run to the store and grab a little pack of English muffins and make a sandwich, or go to a fast food joint, pick up a sandwich. These are ingredients we know. These are ingredients we trust, and we're making it homemade with all the things we have in our pantry. If you want to learn more about my pantry, please go check out my videos. I talk about how to stock a pantry. I talk about how to store your items. And I talk about buying things on sale and filling your freezer and your shelf with sale items instead of buying full price every week to fill your family's bellies. Let's get started. So in this measuring cup, I have a half a cup of water and 3/4 cups of milk, 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast, and 2 tablespoons of sugar. Just letting the yeast bloom. We need to melt 3 tablespoons of butter. We have an egg. We're going to need 1 teaspoon of salt and 2 3/4 cups of flour. That is it, family. That is all you need to make homemade English muffins. So we're going to go ahead and move over to the KitchenAid and let that do the work for us. We have 2 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour and 1 teaspoon of salt. In this measuring cup, I have a half a cup of water, 3/4 a cup of milk, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. We have our melted butter. We're going to add 1 egg. We're going to whisk that together. And we're going to pour it into the stand mixer with the dough hook until everything is incorporated. I'm going to scrape the bottom and the sides to make sure we get all that flour mixed in. Sometimes these single batches don't work very well in the big KitchenAid. So if you have a small KitchenAid, it'll probably be a lot easier. But the big one is what I have, and it takes a little bit of maneuvering the dough to get it all incorporated. Now we're going to go ahead and move this to the island. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's very liquidy. And there's still some flour in the bottom. So let me work that in just a bit. Now if I would have doubled this recipe in my KitchenAid, it would have been fine. I wanted to do a single batch to make it easier on you. It can be doubled, it can be tripled, it can actually be quadruple. Just depends on the size of your mixer. I think we're getting all the flour in there. It's supposed to be a sticky dough. So I have a bowl. We're going to add a little bit of olive oil in here. You want to paint this oil inside this bowl very well. I just got a barbecue brush. We do not want this dough to stick to the bowl anywhere. All right, that looks good. We're going to go ahead and dump the dough in here. Make sure we scrape it very well. I want to put a little bit of olive oil on the top. And again, we want to paint that on there. Some plastic wrap. Let's cover this up really, really well. We're going to let that sit right here until it doubles in size, which should take about an hour to an hour and a half. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and get started on our mozzarella cheese. So I have a gallon of milk. I like to save the heavy cream. So this is the heavy cream from this gallon of milk. And this freezes perfect. I'll stick this in the freezer when I need to make Alfredo sauce, or I'm using a recipe that calls for heavy cream. I always have it on hand. I am a member of a herd share in my area. For $40 a month, I get a gallon of milk every week. And out of that gallon of milk, I always end up with a pint of heavy cream. This right here is more valuable to me than the milk itself. The milk I will either turn into yogurt, or I'll make mozzarella, or I use it in a recipe that calls for milk. But this is in my opinion, the milk is a byproduct to the heavy cream. So I have a 1/4 teaspoon of rennet. And then in here I have 1.5 teaspoons of citric acid. You can get that at any grocery store. And then a 1/2 cup of water divided amongst the rennet and the citric acid. You stir it until it's completely dissolved. And then the milk on the stove. Let's get started. So in the Dutch oven, we have a gallon of milk. We're going to turn it to a medium low. We're going to add the citric acid dissolved in water. need to heat this to 100 degrees. I have a thermometer. The milk came straight from the refrigerator, so I know it's going to be cold. Yeah, it's showing about 50 degrees. So we got a while to go. We're just going to continually to stir this to make sure the milk is heating up evenly. We're not going to get it so hot that we have to worry about it scorching to the bottom of the pan. We're just moving it to heat it up. 100 degrees, we are there. Now we're going to take our rennet water. Stir that in. Turn the burner off. We want to make sure we evenly distribute that rennet, the water, with the milk and the citric acid. You should start seeing curds very soon. Yep, there we go. There we go. Look at that. We're going to cover it. Let it stay right here for 10 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to wash dishes. 10 minutes is up. Let's turn it back on to a low. Because we want to heat that whey so we can build the curds into cheese. Can you see that? You can strain it if you want to and then reheat the whey, but we're just going to do it all at the same time. The mozzarella will come together and stretch a lot easier once we get our whey heated up. We want to get it to about 120 degrees. So I have a little bit of salt in this small ramekin, just so I'm not cross-contaminating my salt container as I'm touching the mozzarella and the whey. I want to get it as stretchy. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of salt. We're going to massage that in and pull as we're massaging it in. Back in the whey. The whey is going to warm that mozzarella so it's able to stretch. And it's going to get hot on your hands, just so you know. See, we're not stretchy yet. It's still trying to fall apart. We're at 120 right now. It is trying to get pulled apart. Let's add a little bit more salt. It's starting to come together. You can see it. It's not as shaggy as it was before. I'm taking the temperature of the whey, not the mozzarella. Can you see it starting to pull without breaking? That's what we want. I'm going to go ahead and reserve about 2 cups of this whey. So when we store our mozzarella, it's stored in the whey that it was cooked in. See that? Starting to come together. It is at 130 now, and I think between 130 and 140 is the ideal temperature. turn the burner off. It's a little warm to touch, I can tell you that. Whew. Let's get our mozzarella out. See how well that just stretches and pulls. That's what we're looking for. One more time and we will be done. Rennet needs to be stored in the refrigerator once you open it. I do have a bowl and some whey. We're gonna make a beautiful ball. Squeeze that in together. Look at that family. We just made mozzarella. And I'm not going to throw this whey away. Ooh, that's a long one. I will not be discarding this whey. Once it cools down, I'm going to take it outside and feed it to the carrots. So our homemade mozzarella, let's see how much it weighs. I'll tear the scale for the bowl measurement. And our mozzarella weighs 14 1/8 of an ounce. We're going to add the reserved mozzarella until it's covered. Perfect. We're going to put our mozzarella in the refrigerator, let it cool. That will help firm up our mozzarella so that when we go to slice it, to put it on our sandwiches, it'll slice beautiful. I will be using mozzarella for our heat and eat breakfast sandwiches, but you can use any kind of cheese you want. The reason I decided to do fresh mozzarella is because I had the milk. And if I didn't use it for something, it was going to go to waste. I'd rather use what I have to make my food versus going out there and buying a specialty cheese or even using another cheese I have in the house. The milk would have gone to waste, but not anymore. Our English muffins are rising. It is a very chilly, cool morning, so it's going to take a little bit longer, but that's okay. We have time to do this. The English muffin dough has risen beautiful. I have the large baking sheet with parchment paper. This is polenta, which is just a coarse ground cornmeal, but you can use cornmeal, you can use semolina flour, whichever you have on hand. I just happen to have polenta. So we're going to line our pan with some polenta, cornmeal, whatever you have. All-purpose flour. We're going to liberally flour our surface. This is going to be a very loose dough. Spread our flour out so we're not sticking to the table. Alright, let's take our dough out. We want to get it nice and coated with that flour. We're just going to knead it just for a minute or two. This is where our nooks and crannies are going to come from. If it's sticking to your surface, just make sure it's flour underneath. Alright, let's start flattening it out to about 1 inch thick. Constantly keep flour on our surface. Recipe says we should be able to get 14 English muffins from here. I'm just constantly flipping it to make sure it's well floured. This is so beautiful. Don't need a rolling pin for this. It's very, very pliable dough. You don't want no sticky parts. If you have a biscuit cutter, that would be perfect. I do not have one. We're going to lay that right on top of our polenta, cornmeal, or semolina. I'm constantly just dipping my glass into the flour. I've got 9 so far. Let's get our shaggy dough back together. And repeat the process. The last one is going to be ugly, but that's okay. Still going to taste delicious. Alright, so I got 13, and one is going to be pretty big, but that's okay. Now we're going to sprinkle some polenta right on the top. We're going to cover it with some plastic wrap, and we're going to let it rest for 30 minutes. I have the large cast iron griddle on 2 burners. We're going to turn them on a medium heat. We need to get this cast iron hot before we add our English muffins. Look how gorgeous they are. I am so excited. We want to make sure it's hot, that when you put your hand about an inch above the cast iron, you should feel some heat. I'm feeling the heat coming from around it, but not from the pan itself. The secret for that beautiful, crispy outer edges of the English muffins comes from a hot cast iron pan. We need to be able to cover the pan and the English muffins while they're cooking. Obviously, I do not have a cover for this, so we're just going to use aluminum foil. Okay, we are hot and ready. So we're going to put some cornmeal, just to use as ball bearings to separate the muffins from the pan. I'm not going to crowd the pan. I'm only going to put 6 on here at a time. We do want to cover it, and we're going to cook it for 3 to 4 minutes per side. Flip them and cook it for an additional 3 to 4 minutes. Oh, they've swollen beautiful. Do you see the color? Oh my goodness, that looks beautiful. All right, I'm going to turn it down to just a medium low. Look at that, family. Beautiful. go ahead and remove these 6. We do want to clean the old cornmeal off. Add more cornmeal. And then cover it and cook it for 4 minutes. Do want to check the internal temperature. Y'all heard me say this before. Bread internal temperature needs to be between 190 and 210. And we are at 190. Perfect. Feel like the back is cooking a little bit faster, so I'm going to turn that down just a bit. I went ahead and turned both burners off. There's residual heat left on this cast iron skillet that will continue to cook them. I do not have any dry sage. So I just went outside and picked some fresh sage. In this smoothie blender bowl, I have a teaspoon of fennel that I was grinding up. And I'm going to go ahead and grind up this sage. So we needed 2 tablespoons of sage, and that's dry sage. And because I'm using a fresh herb, I'm only going to do maybe a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half. But I'm just going to mix the herbs together. That should do it right there. Let me grab that piece. And we need 2 teaspoons of thyme. This is all the thyme I have in the house. It's probably a teaspoon. Now I'm just going to put this on the smoothie blender and blend it up really well. I have a pound of ground turkey. You can use ground pork, ground beef. It doesn't matter. But that's our blend mix. Oh, family, that smells so good. We need to add a good pinch of salt and a pinch of pepper, 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. We need 2 teaspoons of maple syrup. And I'm eyeballing, measuring with the heart. This is total optional. I'm adding a few little crushed red peppers. Let's get that all mixed together. And we don't want to work this too much. That just makes your meat tough, especially when it comes to ground beef or ground meat in general. So I'm using the same griddle. I just wiped off all the polenta off of here, and I'm going to heat this up. We'll have it on a medium to medium low. And what I mean by medium low, you have medium and you have low. In the middle is medium low. Medium low will be closer to the medium, but not there. Low, medium low will be closer to the low, but not at the low. I'm going to roughly divide this into 8 servings. I know we have 13 breads, but I do want meat on our sandwiches. I am working with ground turkey, so I am going to put a little bit of olive oil on our pan. I'm going to take one of our little wedges of meat, Now we have homemade sausage patties. Looks like I'm going to get 9. One is going to be super, super small, but that's okay. We'll turn it down to a medium low. Beautiful color on that one. I'm going to turn it back up to a medium, medium low. Because this pan is very shallow, I do not want this grease to be dripping on the stove. So I got a paper towel. I'm going to try to absorb a little bit of that grease. So we don't have too big of a mess to clean up. We are cooking with ground turkey, and it needs to reach 175 degrees internal temperature. So we want to go into this side, and we're going to check several of them to make sure that they are reading 175. They are reading between 165 to 170. So let them cook just a little bit longer. We're getting some beautiful color on here. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. I'm going to go ahead and turn the burners off. The residual heat from the pan will continue to cook that sausage for a little bit longer. Now we're going to go ahead and get started on the egg part of this sandwich. I'm heating the oven to 350 degrees. We're actually going to bake these eggs in a casserole dish. It's a whole lot easier than doing one egg at a time. We're just going to do it as a flat egg, cut it into size, and we're going to make our sandwiches. So I have a casserole dish. What's the size of this thing? 13 by 9 by 2. I do want to put some butter in here, and then we're going to put this in the oven to melt the butter. I'm going to put maybe a half a tablespoon. Now I'm going to put this in the oven. While our pan is heating up, we're going to get working on the eggs. So I have 10 eggs in here. We're going to add just maybe 1/8 of a cup of milk, pepper, and salt. We're going to whisk that together. Oven is up to temperature. Went ahead and took the sausage off of the stove. The butter has melted. I do want to make sure we got butter all over the bottom and the sides of this pan. Just painting it on. Now we're going to go ahead and add our eggs. Back in the oven until the eggs are set. And that'll be the perfect amount of time for me to get all the dishes washed, and then we can start building our sandwiches. All right, we're going to go ahead. The eggs are still in the oven. I'll let you know how long that took. But I want to go ahead and open up these English muffins. I got a serrated knife. They are beautiful. I'm not going to break the cost down between homemade versus store-bought. And the reason is because I buy my flour in a 50-pound bag. I buy my yeast in 5 pounds and buy the sugar in 25 pounds. For me to figure out what 2 3/4 cups of flour would be and 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast is too much math. But I can tell you this will be cheaper, healthier, and better tasting than any store-bought. We are still waiting on the eggs. We're going to go ahead and slice our homemade mozzarella. Again, I'm just using a serrated knife. The eggs are done. They took 18 minutes. So I'm going to cut them, going 4 this way, and then 3 this way. That'll give me 12 slices. So we're going to take one of our English muffins, add a slice of cheese, put our egg square on top, and a piece of sausage. Perfect homemade breakfast sandwich. And we're just going to go through and build all of the sandwiches, and then we're going to wrap them up. And when we run out of sausage, we'll just make them without sausage. Can you see that? That is a beautiful sandwich. Keep touching the pan and it's hot. And that's the last of the sausage. And we have 4 slices of mozzarella left. Sausage is gone. I'm going to put this back in the refrigerator. I have one that doesn't have anything on it. I guess I'll have that for lunch today. But we have 12 sandwiches. Now we need to wrap these up. I'm going to wrap them in parchment paper. That way when I microwave it, I can microwave it in the parchment paper also. So they're all wrapped up, put in Ziploc bags. I have 4 that don't have meat on it, so I wrote on it, no meat breakfast sandwiches. And then I have 8 that do. You know what? One of these says, doesn't really matter to me. With meat, without meat, I don't care. I'm just going to grab one. I'll put it in the refrigerator. So on the day that I want to have a breakfast sandwich, I'll take one of the sandwiches out of this bag, stick it in the refrigerator overnight, and the next morning all I have to do is microwave till it's hot and the cheese is melted. It's going to be delicious. Now, although they have breakfast ingredients as a breakfast sandwich, you can enjoy these any time of the day. You could take it to work or to school and have it for lunch. You come home late one evening and you don't have time to cook dinner and you just want something quick, eat a sandwich. If you know you're going to eat 4 within 5 days, just take a whole bag of Ziploc, put it in your refrigerator, and that way they're ready for you to heat up and eat. And lucky for us, we have one that we ran out of egg and we ran out of meat. So I am just going to enjoy me an English muffin for an afternoon snack. But let's taste this and see if it's good. Family. This is better than any store-bought English muffin. Oh my goodness, that is so good. So don't forget to leave a comment down below if you're coming from Judy's channel over to my channel. I would love to know. While you're at it, hit that thumbs up button. Go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you part of the Grammy family. Thank you for spending the day with me as we made some delicious homemade breakfast sandwiches with homemade mozzarella, homemade sausage, and homemade English muffins. These will go in the freezer for a quick, easy heat and eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, afternoon snack. It doesn't matter. Right over here you're going to see 2 videos. Go check those out. Hope they inspire you to get in your kitchen and make things from scratch. If not, it'll give you a chuckle. That's fine with me also. Until next time, y'all have a blessed day. Bye, family.